You're listening to Thunderquack Podcast Network. This is the Thunderquack Podcast, the official podcast of Thunderquack Podcast Network, where anything can happen. So strap yourselves in and hold on to your butts. It's Thunderquack time!
Hello and welcome back to the Thunderquack Podcast, the official podcast of Thunderquack.com. And there's like a whole rigmarole that I usually do, and I say all this stuff, and part of it is to like promote the Patreon so that you guys go and spend money on it, but then nobody ever actually does, because to be honest, most of you that are going to support us on Patreon are already there. Thank you for your support. You know, people like Brian Moreski and JJ Samuel, but our Patreon producers. There's no time this week. There's no time. Because we watched The Matrix Reloaded, and it turns out that movie doesn't suck. That movie is actually it's actually very, very good. And what I was hoping for, I being Michael Cohen, one of your hosts, and then Amanda Conkin is our other host.
Hi.
Yeah. What I was hoping for was that I just didn't get it because I was a stupid 17-year-old kid when I saw it. And when I watched it last night, I was so happy to discover that is in fact correct. That the last time I was probably 19, the last time that I watched The Matrix Reloaded, while I was in film school, after it had come out on DVD. And I finally got a DVD player. I think that's probably the order of events there. And I like this would have been like just after Revolutions came out. Which like here's the other thing that I'm going to say. I don't have high hopes for Revolutions. I think it's going to be an awful mess. I don't think that it's actually going to have like the meaningfulness that Reloaded did. I'm open to it being better than I remember it, but seeing that trailer at the end of Reloaded, I'm like, this is just the action third act for the entire movie, isn't it? But Reloaded is actually awesome.
Reloaded
what
is actually awesome for the latter 2/3 of it. The first third of that movie is quite terrible. I don't know. I was ready to not watch it. It took me texting you being like, this movie's not good. And then it took me not watching the fight sequences because they did too, like the fight with all of the Andersons
agents, with the
is
agents,
just too much. And I just can't. Yeah, Anderson's is. You know what I mean. You understand why I made that leap, right? Because that's what he says instead of who he is.
It's his catchphrase.
It's his catchphrase. Anderson. But like it was way too long, and and not good. Anyways, but you are correct. It was good. But here's my epiphany. I legitimately do not think I've watched the third Matrix movie because everything that I remember about these movies is in the second one. Has happened. I remember absolutely nothing further. Like, I thought the architect was in the third movie.
Yeah.
And he's not. He's in the second. So I legitimately do not think I've watched the third Matrix movie, Mike. Like, I really want to. I was going to message you this week and ask you if I could watch the third movie before this podcast so that I could know, but I didn't. So
the revelatory nature of the story comes to its climax at the end of Reloaded with the scene with the architect, where he just like straight up, like, you get to the end of the movie and your reward for getting through those action sequences, which at the time, like, to be honest, at the time in 2003 were mind-blowing, right? And the effects
Yeah.
with the twins where they turn into ghosts and stuff, that stuff was like, oh my god, I can't believe they did that. And the stuff with the fight with Agent Smith.
The ghosts are so cool. Like, I don't know, I remembered
Yeah.
them, and for good reason. Like, they are freaking wicked.
There's a
So,
bunch of that stuff that was revolutionary at the time. Like that fight
yeah.
sequence with all of those Hugo Weavings was a very big
Yeah.
deal, and I remember
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
reading about it in Cinefex and stuff, and how they accomplished it, and what a big deal it was to have that many characters, that many CG characters on screen at once, and the coordination of it and all that stuff. But that stuff and the freeway sequence, they don't hold up um in the way that the effects in the first one, even when some of them are a little bit dated. uh
Yeah,
the
they're not
first
as
one still holds
iconic
up.
and, like, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
after watching The Matrix 2 weeks ago, coming back to it, I was like, I can't believe how phenomenally good this movie still is, and maybe even more so now that we know the cultural impact and the
Right.
sort of the
Yeah, yeah.
historical significance of it in the film industry. um and not to mention the added layer of understanding, as we talked about a couple weeks ago. um now that Lana and Lily Wachowski are you know, um more representative of their true selves, you know what I mean?
Mhm, yeah. The
Now
journey, like, the conclusion of their personal journey in,
yeah,
like,
exactly. And how
in the
that
movie.
translates back into it. And
Yeah.
we talked about it, like the whole aspect of like the residual self-image stuff and that sort of thing. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, there's all this stuff in here that is like deeper, has much deeper meaning than just like the cool sci-fi or the Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance aspects of it, right?
Yeah.
There's actually something to be said here. And then at the end of the day, it's a love story, right? um the second one is not as it it's a little bit like, this is going to be a really weird analogy, because I don't think that most people would expect to hear this from me, but like Kanye has his three albums, right? He's got I what's the
Greatest
first one? The first
reference.
one's High School
I cannot
Dropout,
help you
and
with this.
then I think that's what it is. It's like high school dropout and then sophomore and then graduation or something like that. Um
Wow. Go Kanye references. I can't fact check you in
so
any way except for
so
using
the
these.
thing like Kanye's first album is like wall to wall great songs, right? And then his second
Oh,
album
yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
is like it's like okay. And then the third album is like, I there's a couple of nice things on here, but I think you've kind of run out of gas. Um and this tends to be like a very common thing with new artists when they get their break, and they've put everything they have into that first album, and then they immediately have to, like, so it takes a lifetime to get there, and you say everything that you have to say, all of this stuff that's been sort of like bubbling over for in some instances decades, right? And then you have to turn around, you have to do it again 2 years later, right? And
Yeah.
so for The
Yeah.
Matrix, it's like you have to turn around and do it again 4 years later, right? Like in 2003.
Right.
But really 2 years, cuz the production timeline on that is so long. It
Yeah.
took so long to shoot because they shot both movies back to back, and then the post-production on them. So 2 and 3, like you have to do that 2 years after you did the first one. So of course, they're way more empty than the first movie, because the first movie, it's like all of
You put
the
everything into the first one.
well, like, but all of the, like, oh, the programs and the machines, well, it's like that's all window dressing. None of that actually
Yeah.
matters, right? Like when we look at the lines of code, like eventually you'll be able to see it too. It's like, who cares? Like it could be anything, right? It could be purple dots instead of green lines of code, right? It doesn't matter. It's just there's cool stylistic stuff there, but it is all just window dressing around what is the actual core of the story and the themes and what that movie actually means. And then you get into the second one, and the second movie, um although like upon watching it last night, I uncovered some stuff that I had completely missed the last time I had seen the movie, in what probably been like 2005 or 2006. um it's still not like it's not quite as, it's deep, but it's not as meaningful, if that makes sense. Like if we can sort of split hairs on
Right.
that, of
That makes sense. Yeah.
like I think that the depth in the first Matrix was there as like a byproduct of this like deep seated, like this need to express a story, which like good storytelling, good film, good, comic books, video games, whatever, any kind of storytelling, that's where it's got to come from. Like that's where you want it to come from, is like there's something inside that has to get out. And there's no other way to do it than through this piece of art, right?
Right.
And then the second movie comes along, and the second movie is a lot of two things. It's it's a lot of explaining what the hell they were talking about in the first movie, which is fine, but it is a lot of midichlorians. It's a lot of
Yeah. Yeah.
midichlorians, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then the other aspect of it is Reloaded is aggressively sexual. Aggressively sexual. And as a 17-year-old man, a cis hetero man, it's very hard to see past the aggressive sexuality to the deeper meaning of the sexuality. And again,
Yeah.
now in 2021, putting a different lens on it, and understanding that maybe there were aspects of expressing sexuality that maybe they're layered on there, right? There's also some really great mythic allegory in there of like when I was 17, name dropping Persephone got you as far as, oh yeah, a Greek god. Right? Like that was as far as that went in my brain. And now he introduces Persephone, and I go like, oh, the Merovingian is Hades.
Hades. Yeah, and it just
He's the
like it
devil.
opens up a whole. And I wanted to message you because I saw your tweet thread today.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, after watching Jupiter Ascending, and we've talked about Jupiter Ascending before on the
Yeah.
podcast, and knowing what they tried to do with Jupiter Ascending,
Yeah.
I go back and I watch this second movie being like, oh, no. They tried to do that in the Matrix.
Yeah.
And then they just tried to like do it more in Jupiter Ascending. But like
They didn't really learn the
always,
lesson,
they
right?
didn't
They
like
didn't.
no,
Yeah.
they didn't. But everything like I actually have, because I'm one of the few people in the world I think that really really wanted to like Jupiter Ascending.
Yeah.
And like I think, I don't know what it is, but I go listen to our podcast about Jupiter Ascending, because I think that you could re-edit that movie and it'd be really great. But like there's something about it that I absolutely love, to couch things that we are familiar with in a completely different lore and how you relate to them. And I just was giddy with going through this movie again as soon as the Persephone thing happened, and me going like, oh my gosh, everything in this movie is something else, right? Like when she says like all the things that you've imagined, or the and the thing for me with that, with Hades, right? Or the Merovingian, if you will, is that because he says, I've survived your predecessors. So it's this
Yeah.
idea of like what grounds us, and like what are gods, and what anyway, that was the
Yeah.
coolest thing, for that, like having completely, like I remembered the ghosts, like the twins.
Yeah.
And I remembered that being like something that they had talked about, like the things that you have heard about in lore or whatever, but I totally forgot about the Merovingian, and that was real cool, because that's like a
Yeah.
lore. Like, you go and you get stuff from Persephone, you don't get stuff from Hades, right?
Yeah.
And that's just
Yeah.
so classic. Like,
No,
it's such a
yeah, and
classic storytelling trope.
if you try and make a deal with Hades, you are going to lose. You're going to lose that deal,
Yeah,
right? The only
yeah,
the only way to
yeah,
really get something from Hades is to take it from him.
yeah,
I
yeah,
but yeah, but that like that the whole the jilted lover component of it, the like the thing about the kiss is so like that's
oh, yeah,
so steeped in
yeah,
the Greek mythology of the
yeah,
the sort of
yeah,
that loveless union and her just wanting to
mhm,
like just
yeah,
kiss me the way that you would kiss her. Like it just
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
so but like I said, like the story is a it's very aggressively sexual. Um
yeah, yeah,
but but it's aggressively sexual for a reason, and like especially like the rave scene, which I know like it's kind of it's not even funny enough to be a meme.
no,
You know what I mean?
no, yeah, yeah,
It's just kind of like
it's just
at a certain point it just is what it is. But watching it last night and watching it on a 65-inch TV in 4K and sort of like not being the horny teenager that I was in 2003 the first time that I saw the movie and being able to just sort of sit back and remove myself from it a little bit, the visual of it is actually and what it's juxtaposed with Trinity and Neo
yeah,
actually like hit me. It's like, oh, this is not about the rave is not about like, hey, let's put a bunch of hot people in a cave with some techno music and get them all sweaty and make them writhe around and whatever. It's
a little
literally
bit.
to show like they are amongst a literal sea of humanity. Like there are moments in that where like everybody's jumping up and down and there are like waves that are like
Right,
rolling
yeah,
through
yeah.
this group of people, and the visual of it is actually like it's brilliant when you realize what it's supposed to look like. It maybe just I just think some people just aren't necessarily ready for it. Like it's a little bit above. It's hard. It's difficult. It's difficult to get past the fact that everybody's in loincloths and sweaty and really really hot. Cuz it's a hot scene, cuz then it's juxtaposed with Trinity and Neo separate from everybody else, and it ends at like after the climax of that which is not a pun, I'm just being literal. Like basically like when they are done having sex, Neo kind of like almost collapses over, and then the final shot of that
Of her
scene
holding him,
of her holding
and
him,
then
and
it's just
his
yeah,
back is to the camera,
yeah,
and he's just sort of like crumpled,
it's
and
beautiful.
it's just the frame is black except for the archway that they're in, like that sort of like
Mhm.
that inset bed arch thing that they're in, and it's just like it's just lit, and we're like on the opposite side of that, like on the other
Yeah,
side of the fourth wall sort of thing, and it's this, which is intentional because it's like we as the audience are privy to an intimate moment that we are not supposed to see, right? The rest
yeah,
of the
yeah,
world believes that Neo is the one. They believe in the words of Morpheus. He gets up there and he makes his speech, which is awesome, and Lawrence Fishburne is a god among men for delivering that as well as he does. It's like I can't imagine another actor
being able
being
to
that
pull off
character,
anything that
being able to
Morpheus
do that.
does. No, yeah,
It's unbelievable. He's so good
yeah,
in that role. Um, but like the way that he's just like set apart, and then like they set up this like Renaissance painting frame of Neo and Trinity, and like just the posture of his body and like the performance from Keanu Reeves, which Keanu gets a lot of flack for not being a good actor. I don't understand why. So he's
I don't
actually
understand. He
really
is
really good actor.
great. He's
But I just think
great.
that
Yeah,
people don't understand that like there's a lot of it's very similar to like Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt. Like there's a lot of him in his characters, and it's inescapable. But if he's put in the right role, then who cares? It's perfect, right? And this is a really great example of that. But like what needed to come through in that moment from the physicality of him literally motionless absolutely comes through. And he's got the and like the visual of like the plugs down his back and
Oh
just
yeah, it's just yeah.
like sort of the body horror grotesque nature of the situation that they're in, and the fact that like that that he is so alone even when he's with Trinity, which is the only thing that he can think of, is like he just wants this connection with Trinity, and he gets it. But then the second that it's over, he's alone again, right? And like he has the vision
Yeah.
of her dying, and like that's it's his greatest fear. And it's he is this is it's so good. This movie is so much better than people give it credit for. He's the
I mean, yeah.
one. He's the one. The singular. He's the
Yeah.
only one. He stands apart from the rest of humanity by the nature of what he is, and therefore cannot be connected to anyone, even though he's the only one that truly understands how connected everything actually is. Like it's
Right.
just it like the Taoist Buddhist principle of that, of like he's reached enlightenment, and upon reaching enlightenment, now he is completely separate from the rest of the world. And it goes back to what Cypher had said in the first movie of like the ignorance is bliss stuff. Like plug me back
Right.
in. I
Yeah.
don't care. This steak is just all ones and zeros. It's just telling my brain that this is juicy. But you know what? Doesn't make a difference. Juicy steak is
Yeah.
juicy steak, right? And Neo's on the other completely like polar opposite end of that spectrum, alone by himself. Um, and then like so we get all of that imagery, and we're not quite at the point where Agent Smith's full the magnitude of his power has been revealed yet, what he's become in counterbalance to Neo becoming the one. But
Right.
we get the imagery of all of the just like sea of humanity having their rave. And then we get to the fight with Agent Smith, which for all of its obnoxious CG-ness, and I'm just gonna give you a heads up. It gets worse. It doesn't get better
It's
in the
yeah.
third one.
It no.
The
It.
third
Oh
one is
really?
just all
Oh.
CG. Um,
Oh geez. I'm
and
really
there's an
surprised.
even
I'm
bigger
really
fight
really
with.
excited. I
Sorry, go
just
ahead.
cannot remember it. I'm just so excited to find
Yeah,
out what happens because I just remember
nothing.
nothing.
But
Nothing.
I like the
But the same essence of like that
the
kind of
epiphany,
animation
but
and
the
like
epiphany that I had last night watching the movie, where I realized the reason why Agent Smith is able to multiply is because
is
Neo is the
because it's the
one.
opposite
So
of
the
it. Yeah.
counterbalance to the one is Legion, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
demon that can propagate, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just like
Is Legion the name of a demon that can propagate?
so in the Bible there's
Is that
there's an account
oh my
of
gosh.
Jesus taking a demon out of a person and putting it into a bunch of pigs, and the
Huh.
demon refers to itself as Legion, and it's like I am Legion, for we are many. Like it's like that's where that
Oh,
comes from. You hear it in all sorts of pop
interesting.
culture stuff.
Well, I
So
mean,
so
and also legions of stuff. That's good. That's yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
um
That's
yeah,
biblical.
so
There you
like
go.
he's a
Carry
multitude,
on.
but in the sense
Mhm.
like we're I refer to him as Legion because there is like a biblical
It makes sense.
scriptural component
Yeah.
to so much of this
Yeah.
story. um Along with the Eastern philosophy and Eastern religion stuff that gets thrown into it as well, because it's just a great like like Star Wars. It's just this great potpourri
Mythical
of
awesome.
cultural
Yeah.
mythology, right?
Yeah.
um but yeah, like having that revelation of like, oh, there's a reason why this fight is the fight that it is, but then at the same time watching it and going like, this is meaningless though. Like the fight, the symbolism of the fight is awesome and I love it, and it was like I got tingles last night watching the movie, coming to this realization. But then like it immediately was deflated by the Gumby rubber man fight that happens, because it's just
Aw,
like
yeah,
so,
yeah,
it's so antithetical to what made the first movie special, which is that like in the
yeah,
first movie it's like that stuff was real, which like the fact that it was a simulation but the fights and the action were real, it's like that
yeah, that's what made it yeah.
that it's yeah, like that's what sells the Matrix, right? So when you come back for Reloaded and one of the big sequences is created by a computer, it's like, oh, all right. But then you get to the fight with Seraph in the middle, which is very brief. It's a very short fight. When he's testing him, right, just to see if he's the
Oh, yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah, that's a good fight. That's a because
And I
that's the
was like,
grounded fight. That's the real one, and you're
yeah,
looking
I
at.
was like, that's what I or oh no, I guess we don't get to. That's that it precedes it.
That
It's
happened previously.
immediately
Yeah, yeah,
before the
yeah,
fight with Agent Smith,
yeah.
right? And it was like, oh, that's what I'm after. Like, and I had forgotten about Seraph. Um, I think my brain had done a racist and conflated Seraph with Niobe's partner. He doesn't get a lot of screen time in the movie, but he's the character that you play as in the video game in Enter the
Really?
Matrix. Yeah, I can't remember his name right now, but
Is it the
he said he says like two lines at the meeting when they have that meeting. Um,
isn't
and
he
the
the mean
reason,
isn't he's not
sorry,
the
go
guy
ahead.
that sits behind the desk and is, like, mean about and about,
No,
like
no, he's Asian. He like, and that's why I said my brain did a
oh, oh,
racist,
oh,
and
okay, okay, gotcha,
it
gotcha.
combined those two characters into one character, and and now I'm like, oh, cool, there we go. It's okay.
Niobe's
Hey,
Niobe's
I
partner, I thought, was one of the guys.
no her. No, I'm not. Not her romantic partner.
Oh,
Her
oh, okay. I'm now getting it.
like
Her
buddy
the
cop
person in
partner.
the yeah,
But I
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
look.
yeah,
Let me
yeah.
look up
I
the
get it.
character and actor.
I get it. Because now I've got
But
to do that. I've got to be like, I don't. There's too many characters that I don't know now in this movie because I haven't been paying attention.
it's weird. They
So
introduce a
sorry about
million characters and then immediately get rid of all of them, and we are just left
that.
with
Yeah,
the trio. And it's
yeah,
almost like the fact that they don't crew up the ship again, I think is probably the biggest mistake in this movie,
yeah,
because
yeah.
there's no stakes to any of the fights because we know that Neo, Trinity, and Morpheus will be fine. Maybe one of them's gonna die
Because
in the
there's no
third
other
movie.
people to. It's except the third, like the third ship, right? Where you're like, it's the Nebuchadnezzar and Niobe's ship, and then the third ship that I couldn't tell
Yeah.
you the names of any of the people on it or
No.
any or the name of the ship because they needed people to die, and
And you know what
that's
they would do today? You know what they would do today? And it's and I know that this is a fact because look at the cast of the Matrix Resurrections. They would stunt cast the hell out of it. The fact
right,
that
and
the
then just
architect is a
yeah,
guy that we've never seen before or since in a movie, right? Like I don't know, I have no
yeah,
idea who that guy is,
yeah,
and I don't think he's ever done anything
yeah,
else. Maybe he's been like in the
yeah,
background of an
yeah.
episode of whatever Touched by an Angel, right? But like
Oh man, his name is Helmet.
and he's great.
Interesting.
He's
Okay.
fantastic. But and he
Yeah, yeah,
crushes that performance, but also like he's like just he's not like what else is he in? Um
yeah.
I've got it open. We can look. I but yeah,
I looked there. It's nothing, nothing.
those other crews needed to be like, especially because of how big a deal the Matrix was, you could have done it. You could have just gotten a bunch of
Yeah.
people that people would have just been excited about, right? Um,
Well, and I mean, I yeah, you never know what like they're the movies, the way that they cast movies way back then was probably different too, like in how you think about all of that stuff. I don't know.
Well, it was, right. It's not the way that we do things now. Whereas like now, like you get as many, uh, stars in the
The
movie
Chris
as you
Evans
possibly can.
cameo in Free Guy was one of my favorite things this year.
Oh, I
That
haven't
was
watched Free Guy yet. That's you
delightful.
just spoiled the fact that Chris
Shoot.
Evans has a cameo.
Oh,
That's okay.
I'm so sorry.
It's my own fault for not having
I'm
watched
sorry.
it yet.
It's
I'm trying to
it's
find
not
this guy, but
it's just
I hate the way that they've ordered
yeah.
the
Can I just say that IMDb has ordered it so that Neo shows up like as the 25th or 30th cast member when I'm
it doesn't
looking
make
at
any sense because this
he's
isn't
after
there's
he's after second operator at command, and then it's like Neo.
it's
I'm like,
not
that's not how
this is
that
not
should
order
work.
of appearance. It's not alphabetical.
It's nothing. It's
It's
nothing. I have
not
no idea.
hierarchy of like so I'm trying to like I'm looking at these very tiny uh is it Ghost? I think it's Ghost. I think Ghost is the other dude. Yeah.
All right. Ghost.
Yeah, it is. Ghost is her is like the other guy. So it's Niobe and Ghost. And Ghost was like the lead character. I mean, like I
That
think
makes
you
sense.
play as both Niobe and Ghost in Enter the Matrix, but maybe it was a situation of like you get to pick one or the other. But
Cool.
I
So that's from the video game. That's the video game. That's not the Animatrix, or is it over? Does it overlap with the Animatrix?
I mean, like everything overlaps because it's all the same story, right? But
Right.
yes and no.
Is it a different? Is it a different ship in the Animatrix?
No. What is Niobe in the Animatrix? I don't know. It's been so long since I've watched that. Is that what you're
No, it's
saying?
okay.
Like,
Sort of. Yeah.
okay,
It's all good. Don't worry about it.
probably. If Niobe shows up in the Animatrix, and then yeah, I would imagine that.
I just don't know. I thought there was a main ship in the Animatrix, but maybe I'm thinking of the video game. So it's all
I don't
good.
know.
You know what's funny? I was trying to think of where I knew. Like the Harold Perrineau, I think is his name, like the Link character.
Yeah.
I was like, where do I recognize this guy from?
From
And I'm actually realizing it's nothing recent. It's nothing. Oh, is it? Oh, because no, he's in Romeo and Juliet as Mercutio.
He's
That's
also
how I remember
Mercutio
him.
in Romeo and Juliet.
But now you're saying he's in Lost. Okay.
Yeah, he's
Yes,
Michael.
I
in
know.
Lost.
I now
Walt's dad.
remember that. But my brain was like, oh, Mercutio. Walt.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. We've
No, this is what we're supposed to do. We haven't gone on any tangents. We haven't gone on any tangents.
We're talking about the thing we're supposed to talk about.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna be real weirded out by this episode of the Thunderquack podcast if we talk about what we're supposed to talk about.
Just the whole time, just the whole thing. It's just solely about.
It's just
the Matrix.
Hey, what's the name of Morpheus's like nemesis? What's his name? The other
Locke.
Locke is okay. That's
the commander, right? Like
this is not in any kind of order.
Commander Locke. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you trying to figure out like what you've seen him in before? A million things. He's one of those characters.
I know a million things. He is. I'm just trying to figure out. He doesn't show up for me when I'm looking at this credit list. Why is it not in any sort of order?
Yeah,
it's driving me bananas.
It is.
Okay, there we go.
Super frustrating.
Harry Lennox. What is the thing that I feel? Oh, Man of Steel. I feel like that's like
there you go.
What I like.
Yeah. Where he plays the same character, right?
Yeah,
he's
basically.
He's the same character. Yeah.
But Swanwick is the that's where my brain is going.
Yeah. And he's played that character in about like 30 or 40 things. You know, he's always the hard ass commander type character, the one that we kind of begrudgingly respect, right? It's like, oh, you're not.
We know that
you're not a bad
doing
guy,
your job.
but you're definitely in the way of our hero doing what they need to do.
Yeah, and that makes you frustrating. That's how like good bad guys are formed. for it. So,
but yeah, I wanted to. I ran out of time and didn't have the opportunity to watch Enter the Matrix. Like I was gonna try and find like on YouTube, like all of the cutscenes from Enter the Matrix or something like that. Something
oh
that
yeah,
would just give me like, just watch this 45 minutes and then you'll remember everything that happens, because it is actually, this is one of the funny things about the Matrix lore, is that Enter the Matrix and the Matrix Online for video games are actually very important to the overall lore of the Matrix. So like in the
oh,
Matrix
okay.
Online, I think I mentioned this on the last episode when we were talking about the Matrix, Morpheus dies canonically in that video game, which is an MMORPG that
Wow.
you play on the internet, which is very meta, that it's the Matrix and it's on the internet and you can go into the Matrix on the internet in a video game, and it's a simulation of a simulation of a simulation. um, but yeah, I am not familiar with that story at all, because I've never played the Matrix Online, because why would I? But I did play Enter the Matrix in advance of the Matrix Reloaded, because that's what you were supposed to do. I think I actually beat it. It was like I beat it like 2 days uh before the movie came out. It was like a big deal of like, I gotta finish this. I gotta finish this. Um, when I probably should have been studying for some sort of a test or something. I mean, like this, we're talking about, this was my senior year of high school, that all of this went
Love
down, that
it.
this happened. So
Love it.
it definitely should have been doing other things, but was not. Um, but
I wish
yeah.
I had this. This is the first tangent of the episode, but it's still related because
Mhm.
I was genuinely thinking. I'm genuinely trying to rack my brain as to whether or not I have seen. Oh my gosh! I just got the term "rack my brain." Is it like based on like the rack, like when you would like torture somebody using the rack? And I'm trying to like torture my brain. Oh my gosh! Anyways, that's what my brain
Sure,
it just
maybe.
made that leap that I feel like that's the etymology of that. Anyways, was trying to go like, where have I seen these movies? Like, did I see the third one? What was my state of mind when I saw the first ones? Because I remember loving the first movie and that one really sat with me. But then I don't remember if I watched The Matrix Reloaded at the time that it came out. And so I was trying to
Like in the
position
theater.
myself
Yeah.
in like in that age, right? Like what age I was. And it was 2003, right? So it would have
Yeah.
come out your last year of high school and well, I was still in high school. And um I just can't for the life of me. And then I had this like thought where I was like, I wonder if there are because memories are like an important thing, right? And I wonder if there is if somebody has a memory of all the instances that I've interacted with people in my life, right? That just like memory is such a weird, like nebulous thing that you can't possibly remember everything. And just like how it all anyways, I was very existential watching The Matrix because it just made me think about like what matters and what we remember and how we
Mhm.
go on and all of that stuff. But mostly it was making me think about being in high school and then being like, I don't remember being in high school at all. I feel like I have Carson put some videos up like recently of our days in that drama in that theater and it's all just bananas. I don't even know what I did in high
It's
school.
a lot.
I
Yeah.
like I was terribly uncool. I'm trying to be like I think I still am terribly uncool. I feel like people do a lot of like interesting things in their life or like at least like I don't know. I mean uncool is a relative term, but I just have been
You're
thinking about
a,
just how boring I am. I just
you're a
I'm
you're a producer at the one of the most influential animation companies in the world.
I mean, yes. I love that. Career-wise, I think I'm exciting, but that's the only
You're
thing
a
I got
very
going for
exciting
me.
person.
I don't know.
You inter
I
you
think I'm a
interv
very exciting person.
you interviewed Stephen Amell
I
when he
that
was
just
relevant.
totally, right? So cool. So
Like
cool.
not like at the like you interviewed Stephen Amell right before they cast him in a Ninja Turtle movie.
Ooh.
And
Wow,
he and
have
right
never
before
I have never put
that
that
tanked his
timeline quite
career.
like that before.
Right?
Oh,
And
geez.
because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they didn't cast him in a Ninja Turtle movie because it's like, who can we get? We can get Stephen Amell. It's like, no, they have Megan Fox and
No,
Will
they
Arnett.
like
at like the height
Yeah,
of their powers. Like
they wanted him.
they were
Yeah.
trying to capitalize on the Arrow thing, right?
Yeah.
They thought that Stephen Amell was the moment, and it turns out that Stephen
Yeah.
Amell was the downfall of the moment.
Well,
But
he was a moment. There was a
have
moment
you
at
ever
some point
watched
in
that
time.
Ninja Turtles movie
I
that
have,
he's
yes,
in?
it's quite terrible. It's quite
I
terrible.
I
But
well,
it's so
see,
fun.
I'm
It's
gonna
fun.
disagree with you because like
It's
that
fun.
movie is actually like a very good Ninja Turtles movie with very ugly Ninja Turtles
Uh,
and
yes.
an awful performance from Stephen Amell, who seems like he showed up on set and read his script 5 minutes before they hit action, yelled action, hit
I mean,
record,
which
yelled
could have
action.
could have happened.
I think it's
It's yeah.
very much the case. I think that he like flew into New York to shoot that movie and then like left and did not care.
Mhm.
Not one bit. I don't think that the Ninja Turtles were even remotely important to him. I don't think he knew who the character Casey Jones was prior to his incarnation of Casey Jones. I think he
Oh,
would have made
I
a lot of
just
different decisions if that were the case. Because he
that's fair.
he's not Casey Jones. He's just a character with the name Casey Jones.
This is my second tangent is
Mhm.
how much I love Alfred Molina because I watched that like
Yeah,
villains panel thing and his grace answering questions about fandom, right? And
yeah.
being like as
I
an
haven't watched this
actor
yet.
like we relate to these. It's great cuz it's him and
Jamie Foxx
Jamie
and Willem
Foxx
Dafoe.
and Willem Dafoe. And it's great. Willem Dafoe is there because he's there and he's is cool. And Jamie Foxx is you can tell that Jamie Foxx did not like being Electro in the first one that he was in.
Yeah,
So like all he talks about is how he hated being blue, which is kind of funny. But Alfred Molina really grounds it and there's this beautiful like he has a beautiful answer about like this is a fan event and like what and he's like well it really is a like when you do these characters you know that a lot of it is fed by fan culture. It was a great answer and I just have to say that there are some people that like he's an artist and you just like the love of his craft and the honor
hmm
for that just makes me so much more excited for Doc Ock and I just like I don't know. I mean everybody knows how great he is, but when actors can come to a fan franchise and really just give it everything that they would give to any other type of role, it really, I don't know, I feel like we're going to be able to see that on screen, and I'm really excited about that. So,
yeah.
just
It's
exactly what you're talking about, like when you,
to tie that back into the Matrix. Talk about Hugo Weaving and
oh, yeah.
his performances in this and Lord of the Rings and
Hugo Weaving is great. Yeah,
he's Megatron in the first Transformers, isn't he?
something
Yeah, he is.
he's in so many. Yeah, yep, yeah. He's
Um,
just like
and like he hates it. He hates it. And yet it's like because like he doesn't want to be like known as that guy. And to me it's
but he's
just
been
like
in everything
it's like what I
because
don't
he's also the
understand. What
yeah yeah
like as an artist, as a performer, you want what you do to be resonant, right? That's the whole point.
yeah
That's the whole thing. That's why you're doing it, right? But like I talked about,
yeah
like with the first Matrix, is like you have this thing inside you that you need to get out, and the worst outcome of that is that you do that. This thing that's inside you that is important and needs to get out, you get it out, and you're proud of it, and you put it into the world, and it just and nobody cares, right?
right yeah 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 yeah.
That's the
But then to be able to have
antithesis
something
of
that
it
just yeah,
resonating, right? So like
yeah,
the character of Agent Smith is absolutely a pop culture icon. He is one of the greatest villains in cinema history. Like
yeah,
and as silly as some of the stuff in this movie and the next movie are with that character, um the trailer for the second trailer for Resurrections just came out today and and revealed some stuff about Agent Smith. And I'll just say I don't want to spoil anything, but there's an actor that is definitely doing like an Agent Smith impersonation because they are, as far as we know right now, like the reincarnation of that character. And it's like there is enough there that you can do, like that there is a thing. He's Hugo Weaving is also Red Skull, and very famously was like, after doing the first Captain America, was like, never again. And the thing about that is that like a big part of it, I think, was the makeup and the prosthetics, and he didn't like it. When the Red Skull showed up in Infinity War and Endgame, that's just CG.
Yeah.
He's not there. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
That's not
But
like
it seemed so much like him. That was the best cameo of somebody that wasn't there, because I thought it was totally him. Like,
Ross
it
Marquand,
just
I think, is the actor.
and
Yeah,
did
nails
such
it.
a
He
good
nails
job
the
of
character.
being him. Yeah. Dude, he's Megatron in all of the Transformers movies. Like, I'm just, like, looking at his IMDb. Like,
That's
for somebody that doesn't
fascinating.
want to be iconic, he did Dark of the Moon as Megatron, and I feel like if you made it all the way to the Dark of the Moon, you did some damage in that world. Anyways, it's a weird antithesis of being like, what as an act. Well, mind you, a lot of people deal with that. Kristen Stewart has had a great resurgence once she like realized that it's hard to get really good roles and not be iconic, right? And then she just started leaning into it and then doing what she wanted to do. I'm really excited to see Spencer when it comes out on video, because I'm not gonna like go to the theater or anything to watch that movie. But I like
you just really dated
seems
yourself when it comes out on video.
well, like the digital thing.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
Anyways,
think
but
the
like there's a
modern
lot of actors that
nomenclature,
deal with that.
yeah.
It's digital. Yes, I get it.
Well, we would say
My mother
when it's available on streaming is the way that
okay.
people would say it.
That
But when
is
it
the way
comes
you
out
do
on
it?
video, when it comes out on
That's
video is
my
yeah.
is like saying, okay, my mother has asked for CDs for Christmas. So we had a big conversation about how to get my mom set up on Spotify with us. It
Yeah.
was it was a stressful afternoon, and I think we're just going to buy her some CDs for Christmas. But I'm like, do they even
Yeah.
sell CDs? How can you even play CDs anymore? I'm like, what? I would have to buy her. I don't know. They have CD players, I guess. But it's like, isn't it just easier to invest in my parents in like a digital speaker of some kind so that my mom can play
Well, don't they
Spotify? I
have
feel like that.
smartphones, right?
Yeah. But then she's like, I'm sitting here just listening to Spotify on my phone. It's so sad. I'm like, okay, mom, that's fair.
Well, yeah, so
Like,
you
what
get a
else?
Bluetooth
Anyways,
speaker. You just get
I know. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
That's
I don't
not
know. I feel like it'll be. Anyways, but yes, yes, coming out on video. I did just say that, so I apologize to all the youngins for. Ugh, I'm so upset that flared jeans are coming back. Anyways, now I'm really digressing. But like, people,
Let's
flared
so
jeans should not come back.
I want to ask you a question, having not seen the third movie.
Okay.
I want to know what your opinion is on whether or not, when they are outside of the Matrix, are they truly outside of the Matrix?
Oh no, Mike, I haven't thought about that.
So the end of the second
Weird.
movie is him using the Force
Being like,
on
I can actually,
the
yeah,
squids,
using
right?
the force on the things. Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah. So why is he able
Oh,
to do
what?
that? Why is he able to do that outside? So it's he has his meeting with God, right? Like he has
Yes.
his
Yes.
audience with God, who
And they say,
reveals
here are the
everything
things
to
that you're
him.
gonna do. Yes.
Yeah, and tells him exactly the extent of his ability and his power, and even maybe even hints at the idea when he talks about like some minds just can't deal with the fact that they're plugged in, so
Right.
they needed to be able
To be not.
to have the illusion of freedom, right? And he says that,
Right.
and that could mean we allow the first person to like be free, right? Quote unquote
Yeah.
free. And we unplug them. And because how does that happen? Well, like it's chicken and egg, right? How does the first person
Yeah.
unplug themselves? They can't, because then the team has to do the rest of them. And it's like, so they allow that first person that way out. knowing that person is going to free everybody, and then there's going to be 1 million people in Zion, and then we're going to kill everybody in Zion. We've gotten really good at it, right? There's that whole part of it where the architect is actually quite malicious.
Yeah.
At first you kind of feel like he's like, oh, maybe he's like an indifferent, like, he's a program, and then towards the end of it you get the idea of like, oh, he doesn't like human beings.
Yeah.
And I love the line of where Neo's like, you need us to survive, and he's like, there are acceptable
levels of, yeah. Well, but that's
definitions of survival or whatever.
but that's exactly because that's exactly the conversation that happened earlier between him and like Neo and the councilman, right? Where it's like, we rely on machines in the same way that they rely on us, right? Like, it's like, we could just get rid of these machines, but then we would have
which
and all that stuff, right?
here's where I'm gonna crack this egg wide open, and I'm gonna put something out there that I didn't think about until this viewing. I believe that the councilman, that character, I think he's a program, because I believe that when they're outside of the Matrix, when they're in the real world, and when they're in Zion and the tunnels and everything, that's just another version of the Matrix, which is why it's a video game, right? Of like, oh, we've
okay.
none of the physics makes any sense, right? How do these hovercrafts work? What the squid guys are just able to float through the air? Why? Right? Like, it's all very silly sci-fi stuff. And it's like, okay, well, maybe within the context of this world, they just have the technology to do that. But what if it's literally just like, hey, some of these people can't accept the false reality that we've given them,
right?
So we give them a fantasy world, because they're more willing to believe a fantastical dystopia where they are being crushed under the boot heel of the machines than like, because what does it actually look like, right? Because like, when you look at it, and the way, like, everything's very like Geiger, and like like, it's got that aesthetic to it, right? It's all very designed, and it's like, none of this is efficient. None of this makes any sense. If the world was really just like, it was just like machines perpetuating machines and using humans as batteries, it wouldn't be nearly this cool looking, right? It would be very boring.
Also, like, where do they get their food? That's my biggest question, is what's going on with the food? How come I didn't see any fields of food in Zion? What's going on with the food?
They eat the paste. They eat the paste. The same thing that's on the ships.
Oh, that's the thing that's on the ship, right?
And that's where he says like, that machine, it recycles the water. We don't even know how it works.
Right? Yeah.
But it does. But I know that it does, and I know why it needs to, right? And he's talking about Neo, and I'm choosing to believe that character is another program, and that his purpose.
Well, he seems like it.
His purpose is to nudge the one in the direction of like the end, right? Like, because it's on a cycle, where like it has to keep going on this cycle. Where they all have to die.
But you remember the third one
vaguely. I know that the machines. I know that the machines, they do bore down to Zion, and then there's a big battle between. We see one of them in Reloaded, the big mech suit thing, right? There's like the one shot of it moving. Yeah. So there's like 50 of those, and then like 1,000 of the. I mean, they say it in this movie. There's like a million of them or whatever, one for every man, woman, and child in Zion, right?
Yeah.
And there's a big battle between those, like, all of that stuff, and then there's Neo fighting. It's in the trailer thing. Like, Neo has to fight all of the Mr. Andersons, as you called them, the Andersons, the Agent Smiths, in the rain. Where he's like, the rain is like slamming into Hugo Weaving's face, and he's like delivering his speech.
Maybe I remember that. I don't know. And okay.
I don't remember any of the rest of it, though. That's it. That's all I got.
Because we're watching this, because we're watching this in anticipation of the fourth movie,
Mm-hmm.
I have to think that that is a true summary. That it, they are still in the Matrix. That even though they think they're out of the Matrix, they're still in it. Because
Well,
that
that's
is
right.
like
Yeah.
what is the best, how is the best way? And this thing that he's talking about choice, right? About not actually having choice, and that even in the illusion of choice, you still don't have choice. It's the why you made the choice that's actually the conversation.
Yeah.
And that some people require the analysis of the why and other people just sort of do their things. I don't know. That's real. Oh, it's real messed up, and now it makes you think about free will and about the earth being created and all sorts of, oh no. The Matrix is a very deep movie. I don't know, people. This is it's a lot.
Yeah.
I need to watch the third one. I don't know. I want to answer that question by watching the third one.
Yeah.
But I think that there's something really sort of, because there's a fourth one, I think that it would only make sense that they're still inside of it even when they think they're outside of it.
So my thing is that, and the new trailer that it just came out today, it points out even more than this, but I don't want to say some of the stuff because it might be a little bit spoilery, because I feel like that the new trailer is a little bit it's hard to know if it's spoilery until we see the movie, because
Right,
who knows if
but
if it's spoiling
yeah.
anything or not. But I asserted this after seeing the first trailer, and we talked about it. Seeing this next trailer and some of the things that are in it, I am even more convinced that Neo is the architect. That
Oh.
the story of this movie is like what happens in the Matrix happens, and then the Matrix at some point reboots into a new iteration, into the seventh iteration, because this is the sixth one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So into the seventh iteration, and in the seventh iteration, Neo is the 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 architect.
The architect. Really? But like,
That the solution, that the machine's solution to the problem is to allow a
oh.
human to be the one who designs the world, but that Neo doesn't know that he's the architect, and that he, like, because he says,
Oh.
like, I've been having these dreams, right?
Right,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
Jonathan Groff says to him, it's like, after all this time, you're going back to the Matrix. And I think, like, I think I've said this before, but I think that he is like a writer, and that he has
Oh,
written
yeah, it's a book.
books
It's a
about
book.
the
Yeah, He's
Matrix.
that's the obvious choice
Yeah,
for
and
that.
that
Yeah, for sure.
it's been
Yeah,
a decade or two or whatever since he's put out his
yeah,
last book, and now all of a sudden
yeah,
he's going to write another book about the Matrix, and it's like, why are you, like, after all this time,
yeah, yeah,
you're going
yeah,
back to the Matrix? And that, like, because like that, you put that in a trailer and it's a real good red herring of, like, why is he saying
yeah,
that
yeah,
to him? He's going back into the
yeah, yeah.
Matrix. Is he in, what's
No,
this world
it's
that he's
books.
in? It looks like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Matrix. But that, like, this new iteration of the Matrix is the most real it's ever been, because it's not the machine, like that, because because literally, Amanda, the architect
yes,
says as much in his speech, that, like, we suck at this.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
not
yeah.
good at it.
We can't figure out how to do it.
Because
Yeah,
he says, like, because maybe my mind is incapable of creating imperfection, right? And it's like, I love it,
and
because I love the
yeah,
absolute, like the hubris of that statement from the machines, which is
but
why they're
it's so
ultimately going
like,
to lose. But it does lead to the idea of, like, the machines being like, what would make a really good Matrix is
yeah,
if we let a
the
human make
human,
it.
if a human
If
could
we
do
let
it.
the one make the Matrix, what would that Matrix be? Would it be a perfect world?
Interesting,
Perfectly imperfect, right?
interesting. Because it would be imperfect. Because there would
Yeah.
be, yeah. I I I don't know. I feel like it's too on the nose. I don't know. I'm gonna have to watch the third one,
But here's the
and then I'll
thing.
have an opinion. Okay. Okay.
If Neo is the architect in this new iteration of the Matrix, and the cycle has to repeat itself,
Right.
Who's the one?
Oh. ... Interesting.
Watch the new trailer and you might find yourself with the same
I can't
answer
believe
that I have.
I haven't watched that. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil it for people who are choosing not to watch the trailer. So.
I mean, I haven't watched the trailer, so it's not a spoiler, but wouldn't he like choose the person that he loves to be the one where he's like, I trust this person? Anyways, cool. I will watch that. I will see what I think. And I thank you, Michael, for making us rewatch these movies, because I would not have at all if we weren't talking about them on the podcast.
That first trailer dropped and we talked about it, and I had zero interest in a fourth Matrix movie. It's like, hey, we're making a fourth Matrix movie, and I was like, that's nice. Maybe I'll see it. I don't know. There's a pandemic. I'm being very choosy about the movies that I go see at the movie theater. Because eventually it will all be released on home video, as you said earlier, when it comes out on video. And then the trailer came out, and I was like, I do know what it is now because Lana Wachowski has talked about it, that like there's a reason why she's making this movie, or has made this movie, I suppose. Like that she has something to say, and the component of it of like the last few years have sucked, and I think I think is that like they lost their parents or something like that, and it's just like she wanted to feel good, and these characters are comfort, and so it was like, but I'm sorry, Amanda, spoilers for the third one, they're dead. The story ends.
What?
I
really?
Yeah, and I maybe it's like, this is the thing, and she's like, but
I can't believe you just spoiled the third one for me.
Well,
I don't remember, Michael.
But like, I have to say that because she says like, but they're my characters. I can just bring them back.
Yeah. That's
and so like that's what this new movie is. It's just like, oh, like I just want my comfort characters back, which I think all of us can relate to. And so like when I saw that first trailer, like that resonated with me without me even really realizing it at first, and I was just like, yeah, no, we do have to go back to the Matrix. We need to. And then I was like, I need to rewatch 2 and 3 because maybe I missed something. And I did. Like, I missed something on 2. I'm really hoping that I missed something in 3. Yeah, I'm really hoping that that's the case. I seem to remember that it kind of ends with like the machines and the humans kind of having to, like, Neo essentially like brokering peace, right? And that like coexistence is the only way for them to have peace, and like some people can choose to stay in the Matrix and some people can be free and whatever, but adding the layer onto it of like, is there actually freedom, because like, is the outside of the Matrix or not
the same? Or is it not?
So also like which lends itself to the idea of like, can anybody die
dead
in the
can
Matrix?
Anybody die, or do we just get like, can your brain, if your body can sustain you, like if your body, like, I don't know, it's just like a thing, right, where it's like if machines can, so many things. We're already living so much longer than we did previously, and I feel like there's something to that, where you just like, if you find a way to be able, if you could find your source, right? It's like we're trying to get electricity to be self-sustaining right now. You think that machines that have to use humans for electricity haven't found a way to make humans self-sustaining?
Yeah.
Without having to go through all that like breeding trouble?
But
just
like
the same ones.
But like, here's the biggest thing. If the world outside of the Matrix is actually inside the Matrix and it's all the Matrix, what if we're in the Matrix and the movie The Matrix exists in order to trick us into thinking that the Matrix couldn't possibly be real. And we couldn't possibly be in a simulation, because that's the sort of thing that you do in a Keanu Reeves movie. Next, you're going to tell me that Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is real, right? What better way to hide that from the masses than to make one of the best movies ever about that subject matter? And then everybody will just immediately dismiss it as nonsense, right? So maybe we are in a simulation. But to Cypher's point, what difference does it make? Who cares?
That's fair. There you go.
Does it matter? I don't know.
Just live in it. Live in the question. I don't know. I feel like that's still my Facebook quote from when I first made Facebook or in university. My like Facebook quote was "live in the question" because it was an improv term that I had like listened to a teacher say once, and I was like, "Oh, that's so profound." It might still be on my Facebook as my like, what is it? Religious views. I think it's on.
Yeah.
It's. Oh, I'm gonna check it out now. I think it is.
When you say that you heard that from an improv person, is that the person who came from the Canadian Improv Games to teach us? Is that?
No, it was one of my teachers here in Vancouver.
Okay.
But I do remember. I remember that was Alistair, wasn't it?
Alistair,
I feel like
Alistair.
Yeah.
I love and talking about the Matrix. This is what we'll close the episode on, because I love this, because we are diving deep back into our sort of final years in
high school,
in high school.
Yeah.
I love the perspective that I have now as a 36-year-old man of the 17-year-old that absolutely worshipped the ground that probably 25-year-old walked on.
Yep.
Who now I would not respect the opinion of. Now I would be like, yeah, talk to me when you've got a few more years under your belt, you whippersnapper. Right, like, it's just because, and this relates back to the Matrix and the idea that, like, I was not ready. And there is the Buddhist saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And it's like,
right, yeah.
It is very much like that. Like, look, Alistair, I did learn a lot from him when I was a 17-year-old and was a 16, 17-year-old, and he was the appropriate teacher for me to learn things from. He is definitely the person who influenced me the most in the respect of, like, don't let people, like, sort of like step on your passion for things, because I remember in doing improv when I was 16, and if I were to do improv today, I would definitely rely on this as, I don't know if it's a crutch or if it's a secret weapon. It's probably a little bit of both. But Star Wars references at that point in time in 2003, making a Star Wars reference was a lame thing to do, right? In the year 2021, making references to pop culture is the way that we all communicate with each other. Like, mimetic communication is a primary form of communication for some of my relationships. There are people that I talk to on Twitter mostly in GIFs. Like, like most of the things that I express to them are either entirely just a GIF, like I just send a GIF as a response to something they've tweeted, or I use a GIF from a piece of pop culture as a way of punctuating or like reinforcing my point. And he definitely, there was a moment where I don't remember exactly how it came up, but I do remember that it, like, somebody said something, or doing improv exercises, something led to moon, and then, like, my response was, "That's no moon," right? One of my favorite
That's
Star Wars quotes.
Yeah.
And which I don't speak ill of those who've passed. Mrs. Rutherford, who passed away earlier this year, a real bummer, because another very influential person in my life. But
Yeah,
she
yeah, for sure.
immediately was like, "Knock it off with the Star Wars quotes, like
Aw,
enough is
aw.
enough." Sort of thing, because it was like she really like just like threw the wet blanket right on top of my fun. And
Right,
I
yeah, yeah.
remember like being super dejected, and obviously it was like visible how upset I was about it,
Mhm.
because I thought that I was being really funny and clever, and I'm sure Josh probably laughed. Right, like I'm
Right,
sure that
yeah,
I got a couple of people, and I know that like Alistair smiled at the reference because he had made a couple of Star Wars references and I was trying to get his approval. And after that class, he grabbed me and he was like, "Don't listen."
Aw.
And he said something along
Yeah,
the
yeah.
lines of like, That would work, like that sort of
Yeah,
stuff
it's
works."
yeah.
Right, because
Yeah,
like one of the best things to do in an
your
improv
audiences.
show
Yeah,
is like you want to
yeah.
hit the audience where they live, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Star
yeah.
Wars quotes are
Yeah.
relatable. And it turns out that I was just way ahead of my time. But I yeah, it's funny because I can say like I wouldn't take his advice. I wouldn't take a 25-year-old improv guy's advice today, but at the time, oh my god, he was like he was Christ-like in my
It's your everything. Yeah. Yeah.
view.
Very
Uh,
aspirational for you.
so
Yeah.
funny, so funny. Yeah,
I
it's
find it really interesting that of like that had a profound impact on I mean, Devin went on to do improv here. Like that
mm.
had like a big impact on some of the people and well, I mean mostly just him. I feel like but I was cool. Like I mean the improv stuff was very like
You
fun.
know,
It was great.
I emailed Alistair when I moved down to Vancouver and
Mhm.
never got a response, and it broke my heart.
Oh, really?
There
Aw.
are two events that happened that are the reason why I didn't end up pursuing acting. There was that, and then there was an open casting call in the Georgia Strait, and my dad found it and was like, "Hey, there's this thing. Go." Go do it, like, because
Right.
I don't know,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
you'll just get, cast as an extra or whatever. Maybe you'll get
Yeah.
whatever. They're just asking for people for a movie or whatever. And the address was wrong, and
Oh
I
no.
wandered around for 2 hours, and this is before cell phones. I mean, it's
Oh
not before cell
no.
phones, but it's before I had a cell
But
phone.
it's
It's
before
before
yeah,
cell
yeah,
phones
yeah,
were
yeah, yeah,
ubiquitous,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was certainly before like the ability to just like look something up and figure out like,
Right.
oh,
Be like
this
where
is
it
where it
is. Yeah.
actually is. I wandered around for 2 hours over on Second trying to
Oh
find,
jeez.
and this is not if you go to Second now, it's like Olympic Village and it's a very nice place to be. It was like
It was
warehouses.
warehouses back then. Yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah.
I because this we're talking about 17, 18 years ago. God, we're
Yeah.
so old. Um,
I know, it's so upsetting.
and it was like that. It was never hearing back from Alistair, so never getting into the improv scene in Vancouver, and then because just being so dejected by that, and
Mhm.
then and then that experience, I was just like, I think I just like gave up on it then and there, and didn't do anything else. And really like and so like I acted so much. I mean, like, it was such a big part of
Yeah, it was such
what I
like
did in high
high
school. It was
school, yeah.
my identity.
Yeah.
And then came down to
Yeah.
Vancouver and just like totally, I wouldn't say totally, because I we did stuff in film school and that sort of thing, but not as much as I
But
wanted
more or
to.
less. Yeah, no,
But
you
I
were
more or
doing
less
way
like, yeah,
less
just
stuff
stopped. Yeah.
than I thought. Yeah. Yeah.
um it's one of those weird things,
Plus,
but
I
I do
mean,
it is in my life plan that when I I've talked about this before, when I
you're
age
gonna Alan
into the
Rickman it.
old Jew thing,
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah, yeah,
I'll
yeah.
I'll have a
Go back. Yeah.
renaissance of that when the girls go off to college or whatever, when they move out of the
Yes.
house. I'm gonna go be a character actor that shows up in a recurring role on whatever Community is at that time. I'll be the Leonard character that just goes,
Yes.
just gets the
Love it.
Shut up, Leonard. I talk to your kids. Yeah. Mark Maron is is the example that I look at for that, where it's like Mark Maron, like he didn't hit his stride until he was in his mid 40s. Like all of a sudden he became a sought after performer, and I'm like, that could be me. That's fine. I can wait. I'm patient. I'll keep making money and doing this whole graphic design brand thing until then, and then I'll be able to afford to chase a dream, a silly dream like that.
It's all good. I mean, you could just go do acting stuff right now. There's nothing stopping you from.
I am so tired. I'm so exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, being an adult is a thing.
I'm so tired.
Yeah,
I'm so tired, and
but I get it.
IMDb's just showing me a takeover ad for McDelivery movie night from McDonald's. And I'm just like, those fries look really good. And I had Wendy's for dinner tonight. Like that's,
ooh,
and
all right,
you know, like these are not the decisions that somebody makes when they're going to pursue acting as a career. You know what I mean? It's just
fair.
not. It's just not. And I got one Christmas sugar cookie in the little plastic container sitting here that as soon as we stop recording, I'm gonna eat it.
You were just gonna eat it. I got pie from work. We got to order pies that we wanted, so I had a gingerbread like cream pie. Anyways, but it was like a little mini like 5-inch one, so I ate like half of it yesterday and half of it today, and it was freaking delicious. So
it sounds awful, but sure.
It was delicious. So
I hate gingerbread so much.
I hear you with the really?
Yeah, I hate it so much. There's a reason. There's a reason why we make houses out of it, and it's because there's the one guy at the Christmas gathering that was like, "I'm not eating this," and just took some icing.
What can I make with it?
And just took a bunch of gingerbread cookies and was like, "I've made a house with mine. What are we gonna do with all this gingerbread?"
My go-to.
No one. We made all this gingerbread and no one's eating any of it. Let's make a house.
They have to be really mushy. Like, go to Starbucks treat gingerbread, or like the ginger molasses cookie, which I know is not like gingerbread, but it's like close enough that like the cookies on my gingerbread cake were quite similar, or like the pie that I got were like quite similar to. So I feel like ginger molasses cookie. There's
I don't like anything about the flavor.
Right.
I don't like anything about the flavor.
All right.
Of a gingerbread cookie.
Well, it's all good. You can have all the chocolate ones.
Why would you? Here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to say. This is the end of the episode. Why would you eat gingerbread when cinnamon is right there? Because ginger as a spice, as a flavor, it's like so close. It's like ginger and cinnamon, it's like, you know what? Like, what's the difference? Well, the difference is that ginger tastes like a butt and cinnamon is delicious.
I mean, like, agree to disagree. You know, I don't know. Like, I would choose ginger over cinnamon. So
you're insane. Okay. You're insane. You're insane.
What's a like? I'm not.
You are absolutely out of your mind because there is no gingerbread toast crunch. All right, that doesn't exist because nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
That is, I won't disagree.
But if I say cinnamon toast crunch, everybody within the reach of my voice, which is around 250, maybe 300 people over the course of the next year, this is the power that I wield in this moment. Now everybody wants a bowl of cinnamon toast crunch now.
Hey, you know what, Mike? I have never had a bowl of cinnamon toast crunch. So...
Then your opinion on this subject is completely invalid. But the next time you come to my house, you are having a bowl of cinnamon toast crunch, because CTC is one of the greatest inventions that we as human beings have achieved.
Okay.
My God, cinnamon toast crunch.
We tried so hard to be on track this episode. I just don't know where we went wrong.
We did it because what if cinnamon toast crunch is just like, it's just programmed to just be like anything? Yeah.
What if it's just a simulation? What if your brain thinks that cinnamon tastes like cinnamon when really cinnamon tastes like ginger. And to me, cinnamon doesn't taste like what you think cinnamon tastes like, and it tastes like ginger, and I like ginger, and we both like the same thing, but we just call it something different because our brain can't process it properly. Because there's a glitch in the matrix. So there you go. We're both right.
Nobody's eating fistfuls of ginger hearts at Valentine's. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Sure.
Nobody is waking up in the morning and looking at a ginger bun and going, that little cake could be
ginger.
breakfast. That could be breakfast.
But ginger you can actually like eat, and it helps. Like ginger is ginger's
yeah,
like
I know. I understand. And ginger is great in like in cuisine as like as a part of like especially I think of like Chinese food. Like ginger is so important. I'm not saying that ginger doesn't have its place. I'm just saying, why would you make a dessert out of ginger when cinnamon is right there?
Okay.
So when I say like why ginger when cinnamon is right there? Because my point about the cinnamon bun is not that there aren't desserts made out of ginger. Obviously we're talking about gingerbread, right? There's all sorts of stuff that's got ginger in it, and people eat it for some reason. But what I'm saying is that nobody wakes up in the morning and absolutely 100% lies to themselves when they look at a cinnamon bun and says, yeah, I can eat that for breakfast. That because you can eat whatever you want for breakfast. Like there aren't actually any rules. But what is it about a cinnamon bun, which is 100% junk food? There's nothing nutritious about it. It's not bread. It's not actually like it is just, it's all of the which also, by the way, bread, not good for you in any situation. It's never good for you. It's just delicious, right? But a cinnamon bun, you look at it and you go, I could have breakfast, or I could eat this cinnamon bun, which is covered in icing, which is just sugar and cream cheese. Although I don't like cream cheese icing, but you know, like that's traditionally what's on there. I like a more like a regular sugar frosting on it. But
oh gosh, nope.
Like you go to IKEA, you get your thing of cinnamon buns, and then they're sitting there on your counter. You got your 6 cinnamon buns. You ate, like, let's be honest, you didn't even wait to get to the car. You ate one on the way to the car, right? And you get home and you put the 5 cinnamon buns on your counter, and they're sitting there, and you wake up the next morning and you could have oatmeal, or you could have
cinnamon toast crunch,
eggs, or you could have some cinnamon toast crunch. But you look over at that cinnamon bun and you go, I could substitute that for my breakfast. No, you can't. That's you're eating a cake for breakfast. I mean, like, we do the same thing with donuts.
You're like Marie Antoinette. You just live in your best life.
Yeah.
With the pastries for breakfast.
But nobody's doing that with gingerbread. Nobody's looking over at like a ginger something or other confectionery and going like, I'm going to lie to myself. I'm going to trick my brain into thinking that it's acceptable for me to eat this, instead for me to start my day with all of that sugar and just everything that's bad for me.
It's a real weird argument you're trying to make here, because I don't quite.
But I think as is often the case, the audience is going to be with me on this one, and I think that as we talk about things resonating, I feel like this one's really gonna.
It's the kicker. I never did I think that we would be divided between cinnamon and ginger.
You know, it doesn't surprise me in the least.
Pretty good conversation here on Thundercrack. It's good. Cinnamon
and is the podcasting is why I never need to do stand-up comedy, because there it is. That was my bit about ginger versus cinnamon.
All right.
And you're welcome, guys. I don't know if it made anybody actually laugh. Please let me know if you actually laughed at any of the jokes that I just made, or if I just wasted everybody's time. This is the kind of feedback that I really need in order to become a better podcaster. I have no interest in being a better podcaster.
You just want self-validation. I feel like that's what it is.
I just want to know that people out there think that I'm as funny as I feel that I am in those moments, because I feel like that was a good bit. That was a good bit. Cinnamon versus ginger. Nobody's reaching for a gingerbread in the morning. I'm right. you can believe whatever you want, but time's gonna tell. This is like the Adam Driver thing of like, look, I get it, I understand, but also he's not conventionally attractive. You know, there's something about him, but
What
he is
has
kind of
time told us that Adam Driver is not attractive? Because I don't believe that.
no, but the audience was definitely with me on the like he's not conventionally attractive, which was you were making the argument in that episode a million years ago that
Oh,
Adam Driver
that
is
he
like universally attractive, like that everybody
uh,
feels the way that you do about Adam Driver. And I do think that time has told on that one, and I think that you've even admitted in the past that you were wrong in that assertion, that like oh no, he's definitely attractive to a certain type of person. Like
if
you
you've
have to
watched him as Kylo Ren.
you have to think certain things. Your brain has to work in a specific way for you to really see it. I mean, like, Crystal didn't think that Adam Driver was attractive until she watched Marriage Story, which
Oh,
which
weird.
I get and I also don't get, you know.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
actually, it actually, there's a lot about that says a lot about our relationship. But that's
Crystal is. Yeah.
that's a
Fair.
conversation.
Right.
That's a conversation between Crystal, myself, and our couples therapist. That needs to happen. We fired our last couples therapist. She recommended a book about kids, and I got 2 chapters into
Oh.
it, and I said to Crystal, I was like, this is what this book says, and Crystal went, oh, and I was like, yeah, we're not going back.
Yeah, let's not have.
So
Yep.
we
Nope.
haven't found a new one yet.
Good for you.
Couples therapy isn't just for when you're having problems, by the way, just like regular therapy. Hey, everybody out there.
Yeah.
It's
I'm excited to hear what she says about Adam Driver and or your new nebulous one.
It's
Go find
the
somebody
hypothetical. Hey,
the hypothetical.
I gotta make an appointment with my actual therapist before I find a new couples therapist and then make that appointment.
That's fair. Okay.
I really do need to. I really do need to make an appointment.
Yeah.
The last time that I spoke with my therapist was the week before Crystal's dad died, and now my dad has died. It's really, I should probably make an appointment.
You should probably go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a little reset.
Yeah. It's like a car. It's like every 6 months or however many 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
And it's like I think it's not only been 6 months, but it's also been, we're well past that mileage marker.
Very many.
On this one.
Very many
in terms of
Yep.
Yeah. I don't need to finish that sentence, do I?
Yep.
We're done. Nope. We did it. That was an episode. Let's see. We talked about a pop culture thing. We went off on tangents. We argued about Adam Driver.
Okay.
I shared too much. I revealed my insecurities. We argued about opposing views on something. I think the only thing left to do before we end this episode, for it to be a real episode of the Thunderquack podcast, is for me to mention that The Rise of Skywalker sucks. It's not a good movie, you guys. Somebody tried to argue with me about it on Twitter yesterday, and I was not in the mood for it.
You're like, nope.
And I was just like, keep talking, because I'm having fun telling you how you're wrong. Because it's a bad movie. It's a bad movie. It's not. Yeah. Cool. Thank you guys for listening. Next week is gonna be Shang-Chi. Are we gonna finally do it? Are we gonna finally?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure we're supposed to talk about Shang-Chi. Like,
next week is next week is our Nuff Said episode about Shang-Chi.
I can't believe we haven't talked about that yet. Oh my goodness.
You know what? It's perfect though.
Wow.
It's perfect
because of the sequel thing.
They just announced the sequel, so we'll be back next week. And you know what's even better about it? It's a good excuse to watch Shang-Chi this weekend.
Oh, there you go.
Not that you need one. It's a perfect movie. 10 out of 10. Go watch Shang-Chi on Disney Plus if you haven't watched it already. We're going to talk about it next week with Curtis. Which, like, you know what's great right now is that, like, I messaged Curtis and if he's like, oh, yeah, I'm busy, I'm like, you know what? I really need you to do this, man. I really need this one. And and then he has to do it. He has to do it. That's for it.
Yeah, you're in that window. You're in the window.
Stick around after the music if you're a Patreon supporter, and you'll understand why he has to do it.
You'll understand. Yeah, there you go.
That's it. We'll be back next week. Enough said. After that, Matrix Revolutions. Is that the third one? I don't know. The titles of these movies are awful. Not awful, but like it's just very hard to keep track of them. So go watch that. Watch Shang-Chi this weekend, and then next weekend watch the third Matrix movie. Because we're going to talk about it.
Stay safe, everybody. Wash your hands and be kind to one another.
Follow the Thunderquack Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook by searching the Thunderquack Podcast. You can support us in 3 ways. First, by heading to the podcast service of your choice and leaving a rating and review. Second, by going to store.thunderquack.com to pick up some merch from your favorite podcasts. And last but not least, by heading to patreon.com/thunderquack to kick in with your monthly pledge of support and get cool rewards like early access and extended episodes. The Thunderquack Podcast is the official podcast of thunderquack.com. Head to thunderquack.com to discover more great podcasts.